Hank Willis Thomas's 2009 piece, A Place to Call Home, Africa America, literally and figuratively connects large spheres of the African diaspora and works to construct a place that he and other Black Americans and people of the diaspora can think of as a home, in spite of the realities of the historical, cultural, and ancestral displacement and fragmentation that have come about as a result of the Middle Passage, a product of imperialist capitalism and colonialism. Through this piece, even through the title itself, Thomas, a US-born Black visual artist, reclaims Africa and the diaspora as home. Hank Willis Thomas, born in 1976 in Plainfield, New Jersey, and now living and working in Brooklyn, New York, is a conceptual visual artist whose work spans across photography, video, sculpture, and a wide array of mixed media installation. Some common themes that Thomas tackles in his work are interrogations of power structures, racial signifiers, their intersections with mass media and popular culture, commodity and consumer culture, and historical as well as contemporary iconographies. Thomas's black polished aluminum wall-hanging sculpture that sits at approximately 7 feet high and 5.5 feet wide calls out connections to intellectual and cultural movements within the diaspora, such as Pan-Africanism, for example, Thomas sculpturally uniting the diaspora, an international movement that champions solidarity between all people of African descent. Pan-Africanism formally emerges at the very beginning of the 20th century with the first Pan-African Conference, organized and held in London in the year 1900. 19 years later, the first Pan-African Congress was held in Paris, which has been followed by 7 other congresses since, held in countries all over the world, the most recent one being in Accra, Ghana in 2014. This piece also parallels well with the works of scholars and theorists such as Stuart Hall and Lewis Gordon, both of whom have trans-diasporic backgrounds themselves, born in Jamaica and then moving and establishing their careers respectively in the UK and in the US. While symbolic in nature, Thomas's piece still visually shifts the geography of the physical world as we have come to know it, placing the continent of Africa directly below and connected to North America, where most maps place the continent of South America. In this way, Thomas disrupts the stakes that the fields of geography, cartography, and world history have in monopolizing our worldviews. This project that Thomas takes on of remapping the world in a sense relates to scholar Lewis Gordon's concept of shifting geographies of reason. It also relates to Hall's notion of shared conceptual maps, how we as people collectively categorize and produce meaning for things through languages of many forms, written, spoken, and visually as well. Thomas's piece helps to illuminate how so much of our knowledge, or at least what we think we know about our world, is presented to us through various forms of visual representation, such as mapping, photography, illustration, and so on. This ultimately raises the question of what gives mainstream representations of the Earth and its continents any more merit than Thomas's version. The short and simple answer being that Thomas is an artist and not a geographer or cartographer, but what this piece helps to uncover is the ways in which the natural sciences as a set of disciplines are very much dependent on visual arts techniques to represent and disseminate the theories and paradigms which they produce. Through the natural sciences, many representations such as those of world maps have become naturalized and are now widely perceived as being purely factual, objective, and mirroring reality. But in fact, we must remind ourselves that even the world maps that we've become so accustomed to are mere 2-dimensional, sometimes 3-dimensional representations of the globe, and even they vary depending on the type of projection. None of these representations are actually the world itself, as much as they may strive to encapsulate it. This brings us to cultural theorist Stuart Hall's fundamental notion of representation being constitutive. The process of representing something is what actually allows for anyone to assign meaning to anything, for something to then enter the realm of reality. With the title of this piece, Thomas engages with the term African American, which was in large part popularized by US politician and civil rights activist Jesse Jackson in the late 1980s. It's a term that at first glance appears to denote nationality, but really becomes quite convoluted in its conflation of nationality, ethnicity, and race. All socio-political human constructs, by the way. Thomas plays with these nuances in this piece, creating a physical place to attach to an otherwise intangible, locationless identification. In this way, the piece represents something profound about the experience of being what Thomas calls a hyphenated American but with a condition. Thinking about this piece, it's also important to take note of when it was created. The year 2009 marks the first year of Barack Obama's first presidential term, which made him the first black president of the United States. This piece's meditation on what it means to be quote-unquote African American in 2009 is hence quite timely. The fact that Obama's father was born in Kenya and his mother in America draws an even tighter connection to Thomas's visualization, with the sentiment that home isn't singular, but rather it spans the globe. Thomas seizes his agency as an artist to create his own cartographic representation, to name it Africa America as he does, and to call it home. In this way, Thomas carves out space, physically, conceptually, and emotionally, for the people of the diaspora.